And then the third issue is the United States. The Americans have provided global cover to the world so that anyone can ship anything anywhere. And the Germans used this before 1990 to ship product primarily to the United States. And more recently, they've been using it to ship to China. Well, that's another country that is facing demographic issues. And there's a competition between Joe Biden and Donald Trump over who can be more economically protectionist.
So if indiscriminate targeting has an error rate of 100% and AI-based targeting has an error rate of 10%, does human-based targeting have a higher or lower rate of error than AI-based targeting? And I don't know the answer to that. Probably because error differs depending on intelligence you have, the weather, the phase of the conflict that you're in. I know that we already make mistakes using humans doing the targeting. So it seems to me the only difference is the speed at which we're going to make the mistakes. If you take a look at a country like China, if they're using AI or ML to perform predictive targeting and we're not, we are going to be at an extreme disadvantage. Because I guarantee you that China's tolerance for errors against civilians will be a lot greater than the coalition's tolerance for errors. So, is it better to make fast mistakes or slow mistakes?
Let's do the math quick, because I'm curious. Calc 1, it was 1.4 billion. So 1.4 billion times that number, they would have had to spend $1.3 million via Mux to play back that video. That's why they didn't host the video. Why would you host this and spend that money when YouTube will do it for free and cover it for you? It makes no sense to host your own video if you don't have to. And YouTube, for any of many reasons, is more than willing to just eat these costs for us, even if you're not running an ad on the video. What Discord did here effectively is cost YouTube a hilarious amount of money to cover their video hosting costs for them. So yeah, if you're wondering why they use a YouTube embed, here's your $1.5 million answer.
This is the OBSBot Tiny 2, and I have to tell you about this thing. It's another one of those gimbal cameras with the crazy tracking technology built in, but it's got a couple twists.
So what you need to do is go grab some good quality clippers and shave all your hair off. And if you want to know which clippers I recommend, the link is in the description below. You click my affiliate code and okay, obviously I'm joking with that, but yeah, it does feel like a constant cycle of pleasing the algorithm for views, and the views aren't really backed up by anything real, which just leaves me feeling kind of about the whole thing. The second big problem I have is that the content on most of these social media apps is passive, which means people are not actively choosing to watch what you have made, but instead are served content in front of them in their feed. And what happens because of this is people just not really paying that much attention to the content being consumed.
Nobody likes to think about their own death, but it's necessary. In fact, it's possibly the most important mental exercise we can do, and here's why. Death is the only thing that we can know with any certainty. As such, it must be the compass by which we orient all of our other values and decisions. Left to our own devices, we will obsess over wealth, fame, and beauty, even though these things bring our lives little meaning and great amounts of stress and anxiety. Without acknowledging our own death, we make the superficial appear important and the important appear superficial. Charles Bukowski once wrote, "We are all going to die, all of us. What a circus." That alone should make us love each other, but it doesn't. We are terrorized and flattened by life's trivialities. We are eaten up by nothing. Death reminds us that we must ignore life's trivialities, that we must choose values that stretch well beyond ourselves, because this is the timeless rule of happiness. And whether you're listening to Aristotle or Confucius or Harvard psychologists or Jesus Christ or a fucking Disney princess, they more or less all say the same thing.
Human beings also have a natural tendency towards tribalism. We naturally create in-groups and out-groups, people who are part of our group and people who are not part of our group. We don't have to make groups based on the classic identity categories. We can make groups based on other lines. If you assign 2 colors of shirts for kids to wear, for example, kids wearing the same color shirt will treat each other preferentially. Kids will show that bias, even without prompting from adults. It's also the basic psychological driver behind the popularity of sports. We like having our team, and we like seeing our team beat their team, even if the members of our team change arbitrarily over time. Now, with that in mind, let's go back to the first line I read from the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
When I started studying at the university, my expectations were based on biographies of scientists. They wrote a lot of letters to each other. They went to conferences. They were thinkers and tinkerers and had sometimes heated but usually respectful arguments. This is what I expected. Yes, that was hopelessly naive, I know.
Because we have seen from experiment the following smooth curve. However, when Rayleigh and Jeans plotted their function, they found the following alarming result. We see that at small wavelengths, the energy density rapidly increases. This rapid increase can be seen from the energy density function. We see that when lambda is small, then lambda to the power of 4 is going to be tiny, and therefore the energy density is going to be huge. If we think about this in terms of frequency, then small wavelength corresponds to high frequency, and since there is no upper limit to the frequency inside our cube, as the frequency tends to infinity, so does the energy density. And it is this catastrophic result that is known as the ultraviolet catastrophe. Rayleigh and Jeans had demonstrated that the best understood classical laws of physics were incapable of describing even the most commonplace phenomena, namely the radiation properties of hot objects. But not all was lost. Out of the ashes of classical physics would emerge a new revolutionary framework that would not only change the laws of physics, but life on Earth itself. Max Planck was an unassuming German physicist who dedicated most of his life to the study of thermodynamics. In a now famous lecture delivered on the 14th of December 1900, Planck announced that the conclusions obtained by Rayleigh and Jeans could be remedied, and the danger of the ultraviolet catastrophe avoided if one postulates that energy can only exist in the form of certain discrete packets called quanta. In order to reach this conclusion, Planck had worked tirelessly on the problem for several years, at times despairing at the difficulties that he encountered.
So there are two things here. There's consciousness and the brain, and what science is doing is studying the laws that connect the two. So I think that what we get out of all these experiments is a better and better understanding of the laws that connect consciousness with the underlying processes in the physical brain. But nothing about this shows that's all that consciousness is.
So do you think it's in principle possible, however far we go forward, for anything in neuroscience to be able to break through the kinds of explanations that you would require to explain how you define consciousness in terms of brain science? Is that possible in principle?
I mean, never say never. Maybe all of us have been screwing up all along and some amazing genius will come along who's had an idea none of us have ever thought of. So we have to allow something like that possibility.
I expect there to be significant impact on jobs, but exactly what that impact looks like is very difficult to predict.
There is a misconception when it comes that AI will replace humans.
And I don't want to pretend that there will be no job loss. There will be some job loss.
With the AI job reset underway, it's crucial to understand how the job market is evolving.
So we just need to get robots shipped, and shipped in a big way. And if we can ship them, if we can ship millions into industrial solutions, we can use that as our pathway for the data collection process and volumes on the manufacturing side.
How do you think about social acceptance of robots? What are you already seeing?
I knew you were going to ask that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm doing my best robot impression. I'm really excited. But
yeah.